So, today we're going to be actually adding some AI to our game, so our enemy actually does stuff. First thing we always want to do is play the game again, make sure that it's all working. We added the menu last time, click Start, and we start in the actual game. Shoot, shoot, explode. So one thing that's happening right now is my sticky bullets aren't killing the enemy. So they're exploding, but it still says he just has 3 health. We have to do something to make sure that he's taking damage properly. So let's debug this. Let's go into our character base. And let's check out apply damage. We're going to add a breakpoint right there. We save that. And play the game, test it out. So when it hits him, it doesn't do the damage, but when it explodes, hitting that right click, I see we're at apply damage. The damage amount is this float down here. Let's step into that apply damage. I see that it's doing a truncate right here. So it's ignoring all float values because our health is set as integers. Well, that's not good. I need to actually go through and change my health to be floats so that we can take into account if there's a partial damage. So in the iKillable, I stopped playing so I can modify it from integer to float. And it's going to say this will break some connections. It has to change lots of stuff and recompile. Yes, we do want to do that. I also want to change the max to a float. We're going to need to change that and then fix all of the errors that it came up with. If I hit compile, I can see down here it's got several errors, about 10. We can click on them and it'll bring us directly to that node where that's happening. So I need to change this. I'm going to just replace that. So it's the max health one. Delete. Drag max health right back in. Then I see right here, it was saying the current health doesn't exist. Let's try and compile again. That first one popped away. This one is that current health. Drag in the new current health. And replace that. And these operators are going to be an integer. So I need to actually do a new minus node there, because we're going to be doing a float minus a float now. And just replace that node as well. So this was doing the damage in apply damage. Our damage amount, floating point value, pass that in. So we're taking current health minus the damage amount. And then we need to clamp. But if you notice, this clamp is set as an int. I'm going to need to replace all these nodes. Clamp. And this clamp will be a clamp for a float. Minimum value of 0. Maximum value of max health. Then up here, it's trying to set the health again from this clamp. Well, let's go over here. Drag in the current. We're going to set that current health now that it's a float. Drag that over. And delete that. Just connect up the print string again, just so that we can see if it's working. Compile. Down to 3 sections now. And this is in our HUD, because current health doesn't exist. So we need to delete that. Current health can't go straight into what we have set for our return node. So on this function, called getHealth, we have to change it from integer to float. Then we can pass our current health directly over. Compile, down to 2 now. And this is getting the health percent. Let's go ahead and break those connections. And this was converting it from an integer to a float. Now that we have them both as floats, we can pass them in directly. Current divided by maximum. That's weird. Okay. Compile once more, and we have no more errors. Let's save this and give it a quick test this time. Oh, now it's saying I have an error in character base. And I didn't want to play. So, we have to make sure to compile our character base. I see it's got a few, this current health right here. Let's remove that. Get current health. And we're checking if that's less than or equal, but this comparison is doing ints. So let's drag that off. Less than or equal to a float of 0. And that's how we tell it when it's dead. Compile, save. Press play. No errors on startup. So I shoot a sticky bomb on him. I right click to apply damage. And we were hitting that breakpoint. I'm going to just remove that. And resume. Jump back into the game. We hit him, and we see it's now doing a small amount of damage. He's at 0.2 right now. And there he goes. Okay. So now that we fixed up that sticky bomb to actually deal damage, just going to save all. And we can get into the making the actual characters, making our AI. For this, I'm going to just open up level 0 so that I can start playing from this one. And what I need to do is add a few different things. In our scene, we're going to want to add what is called a navigation area. So, a couple of different things. There's a nav mesh bounds volume. I can drag that in, and I want to make sure that this nav mesh bounds wraps around our entire level so that it declares it as like an area that our enemy can go. So I'll just switch over to the scale, grab the X and Y planes, and start scaling that up until it encompasses the entire level. So just double checking that it's over that. The bottom bounds is actually on top. So what I can do is switch back to the move or translate tool, drag that over there, increase this amount a bit more so that it's wrapped around our entire area. All right. You can press P to actually see the navigational area. If you notice, it ends a little bit before the end of our floor. That's to prevent the actual AI from going straight to the edge and considering it off the edge and falling off. Okay. Let's save the level. I'm going to tap P so I don't need to see that anymore. Oh, Control Z. And I'm going to just select our character so that we don't have that selected. And if you tap F, it'll actually focus in on the object you have selected. It's very easy to select things maybe in the outliner and then just go straight to them. For example, if I tap P, it zooms in on its bounding volume. Okay. Let's go ahead and add our enemy. For that, we're going to create a child of our character. Create a child. And we'll call this enemy. In the enemy, we have a couple of different things that we can do. Right now, the AI controller class is set to AI controller. And we have it placed in world, but we want, if we spawn an enemy, to also have AI controller. So we're going to switch that to be placed in world or spawned. Okay. So our enemy is pretty basic, not really doing anything. That's mainly just the interface that our player controller has been using this entire time, which is where all of our inputs are done. We need to give it a controller. So we're going to right-click, create a new blueprint. We can go down to this artificial intelligence and give it a behavior tree. For this behavior, first behavior we want to do is just getting it wandering around the level. So I'll go ahead and just call this BT for behavior tree, wander. I need to make sure that our enemy has a controller associated with it. For that, new blueprint class, and I'm going to just search for AI controller. Okay. Let's select that, and we'll call this enemy controller. So in our enemy class, if we take a look at that enemy controller we just created, right here I want to make sure show inherited values is on. We see several different variables inside the AI. It's got a brain component, it's got an actions, it's got a blackboard, and we're going to get into blackboard a little bit later when we start doing the shooting. It's got this navigation filter and everything. So first thing I want to do in the event graph on begin play, I want to tell it to run a behavior tree. Run behavior tree. And I can specify what behavior tree I want to run. Well, right now, if I click on that, we only have the one behavior tree, so I want it to be running wander. Compile, save. Now let's actually go into that behavior tree and tell it to do some stuff. So that's BT wander. And this is a behavior tree interface. It's kind of similar to the animation interface, that it's going to have different transitions to go to the different things. We always start at that root node, drag off, and we can place a couple of different things. I want just a sequence. So our sequence will need a couple of different things. We're going to need some sort of task to tell it to find an area. Then we're going to need to move to an area. And then we're going to need to wait, just so it's not constantly moving and running around. So let's go ahead and add a blueprint or behavior tree task. And on the blueprints, just right click, new asset, blueprint class, BT task. And we have this BT task blueprint base. We'll select that. And we'll call this BT task wander. Inside this one, it's just like a normal blueprint. We're going to need to add a function. Oh, sorry. Did not mean add a function. Remove that real quick. In the event graph, we can click in here, add an event. There's several different things. There's receive tick, receive execute, abort, custom events, things like that. Let's go ahead and have it add a custom event. The event to add, we will call find location. From here, we want to actually find a location based off our current enemy's position. So let's go ahead and add the wait. And let's add a move to. If I take a look at move, the move to, I currently have no location set because we don't have anything. It says invalid. What I need to do is actually create a blackboard. Our blackboard is currently just blank. So in here, I can see that this blackboard is just a reference to the blackboard. We need to add one in our blueprints folder. So this is actually getting quite junked up with lots of blueprints. I'm going to create a new folder under my name, and we'll just call this AI, so that we're no longer just doing all our blueprints in this. First thing I want to do save everything. Then I'm going to select each one of these, and we're going to move those into the AI folder. And let's see, we created enemy controller as well. And that's it. So it cleans this up a little bit. And we have all of our AI stuff in one spot. Since I was moving stuff, I'm going to just click on this content, right click, and fix up redirectors. Save everything once more. In our AI folder, we're going to create a new blackboard. A blackboard is basically just going to hold all of our data for our AI. So these values can be set or unset and things like that. We will call this BB enemy. So let's open this up. And this is a new interface. Which over here, as you can see, I couldn't switch to Blackboard because we're on the behavior tree. Now that we've added this Blackboard, I can actually add a new key, and it can be any type that I really want. We're going to create a vector, since it's going to hold the location to go to. Let's just call this destination. And we can save this. In our behavior tree, I can see new task and new decorators, new service, stuff like that. Let's go ahead and do a new task node, and we'll add in that BT task wander. Oops, I already had that open. That's weird. Compile, and make sure to compile our enemy controller, and make sure to compile our enemy as well after we've set its controller. So, blueprints, I'm going to move the enemy in the AI folder, just so it's all grouped up in here. In our enemy, as you can see, it opened just the data portion. I want the full blueprint. With enemy selected, instead of just doing AI controller, I can do the enemy controller. We'll compile that, give that a save, and for this, I need to actually set a destination of where we want to go. Well, our current BT task wander has this find location, but I want to take a look at these other things. There's several different overrides that we can do that are built in. So, receive execute is going to stay active until finish execute is called. So let's go ahead and say receive execute. So when that happens, we see that it's giving us the actor that it is currently controlling. I want to, off of this actor, find path Not find. Navigation. Oh, there's a simple find path to location synchronicity. Find path to actor. That's returning a navigation point reference. That's not what I really want this to do. Give me a couple seconds to double check the notes on this. Oops. And I'll pause the video. All right. So I did that a little bit backwards. In our override, receive execute AI is what I wanted. Then we have the controller and the pawn. And we can tell it from the controller, navigation. Oops. There's find random point on navigation. Radius. Point in, no, come on. What is that node called? Get radius, or get radius point. Get radius, there we go. Get random point in navigable radius. So it takes in a couple of different things. We need to get the nav data. We have a point where we want to actually start from, and some sort of radius. Well, let's add a variable so that we can change this radius. We'll call this radius. And we want that to be a float. That's what we're going to pass into that radius. We have to hit compile before we can actually set that radius. Radius, let's go 500. Not a very big radius, but that's fine. For our nav data, we have the controlled pawn and the other stuff. Controlled pawn, we can get location. Getting that location, we're going to send that into the origin for where we're going to find this location. And for the nav data, oops, off the controller, nope. What is that? I'll just get navigation system off of the task. Not compatible. Interesting. They must have changed that. Get random point. There we go. Get rid of that one because I didn't drag it off of the navigation system first. We have our radius. We have our origin. Still need the nav data, which is just straight from nothing. Okay. And then we need to actually set the value using this random location. Set blackboard value as vector. It's asking for a key. So we need to actually get our blackboard key. I'm going to promote that to a variable. And our variable will be, let's see, location key or destination is what we called it. And this is the key, so I'll call this one destination key. We compile, and over here we have a drop-down box that I can't set. Come on, there we go. So it's not showing up anything right there. I need to make sure to get that blackboard value and stuff from the other things. All right. Let's make sure that exec node gets linked up. Compile the task. And make sure that our blackboard is actually set. So it's doing move to, our blackboard shows as empty. I need to assign this blackboard and associate it with this behavior tree. So, blackboard controller. I'm going to say new blackboard. New blackboard already exists. New. Okay, so that apparently just created several different assets. Let's double check. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and remove those. Delete. And we just have this one. For some reason, this behavior tree doesn't have an associated blackboard with it. And so that's why our keys are not showing up, which means we have to make sure that this behavior tree has blackboard selected over here. There we go. Now that we have our associated blackboard, we see that move to automatically selected that destination. And over here, our blackboard, it's asking for, it can be set to a parent blackboard or not. We don't want any parents. We just want that one destination key to be set. And to do that, we need to call this function. So from our behavior tree, drag off, check out our tasks. I see we have that BT task or BT task wander. And make sure that everything's saved. Then we can actually drag our enemy in. I'm going to delete that other character that we have in there, which is just the character base. Select it, press delete. I'm going to drag our actual enemy in now. Okay. Let's go ahead and play it. and we see our enemies not doing anything. So its behavior tree is not running. Our enemy controller is doing this. Let's make sure our enemy controller is running. Let's play. I see it's hitting that run behavior tree. If I go to our behavior tree, I'm going to just resume and go back to that behavior tree. I see it's just sitting in that task wander. That's because we never told it to finish. So in here, after we set that mesh, or set that blackboard value, I want to finish execute. And we can say it was a success. Compile. And then let's actually test it out again. I press play, hitting that breakpoint. I'm going to just remove that breakpoint since we know that's running. Resume, and I see he ran over there, pauses, waits a little bit, and runs a bit more. And it's just finding a random area, a random spot around that character. It's a very small amount, so let's increase that radius that we were using. And that was in our task. It's this radius right here. Let's bump it up to 1,000. So that's 10 meters. We press play. He runs around. He even picked up that pickup, but he's not really doing anything. He's not caring about me, not caring about being attacked. Okay. Couple things we need to do to actually let this guy have some sort of perception around the world. In our enemy, I want to add a component, and I want to add AI perception. Oops. And accidentally clicked plus on the event graph. Don't want to add a new event graph. Now that we have a perception here, it has several different things that can be set. There's dominant sense. Let's go ahead and say sight. I can add tags to it, and I want to actually make a sight set up. I can do AI sight config. Expand that, and now we see a bunch of different settings. There's sight radius, lose sight radius, peripheral vision, half angle, lots of stuff to actually give it a simulated human sight. Let's just leave it all as default for right now. And since we have this wander tree pretty much wrapped up, it's just doing that finding location, moving to it, and then waiting. That's fine, but I want a new behavior tree for our other one. So we'll be creating a new behavior tree. And this behavior tree will be called BT shoot. And let's pause before we get too far into this one. So I'm going to go ahead and do a break right Okay, so we're back and we're going to add shooting to the enemy. Firstly, I want to go in and do some actual debugging to see all of this enemy's information. Some very useful debugging options can help us out a lot. While I'm playing, if I tap the apostrophe key, which is to the left of the enter key, or return, I can see actually a bunch of different things about this enemy that it's working with. I can actually see the current behavior tree, what behavior tree it's running, the different values of the behavior tree. Problem with this is they set this up for computers that have number pads. If I go to my settings, check out my project settings, down in Gameplay Debugger on the engine settings, I can see that it's using all of these different settings set up for the number pad use. Since your computers don't have number pads on them, I recommend changing them to just the normal number for the keys. So like, for example, for plus, it would just be plus for all the numbers. They're right here. So you can swap that over for your use. You do not need to export this one because my computer has a number pad. And that's just for the debugging testing. So let's go ahead and set up our shoot behavior tree. First thing we want to do is add a selector. Now what a selector does, executes children from left to right and will stop executing its children when one of the children succeeds. And then we want to run behavior, and we can tell it to run our behavior tree, just wander. I see that this one is already associated with this blackboard. I'm going to add a new key because I want to tell it about the player. We will simply call this player. Oops, that didn't add. I'm going to add an object, and there we go, and player, so that we can know if we are if we're looking at the player or not. And yep. What are you saying? I already selected object. That's fine. Yep. So from here, we're just going to run that behavior tree wander. I want to add a decorator. What a decorator is, it allows you to modify these things. Do a quick check on a blackboard or something like that. So what I want to do is check our blackboard. So blackboard based condition. If I select that, you can see over here, we can see key query if it is set. So if the player is set, and I want to say if it is not set, we want to run that wander. Otherwise, we want to actually do our shooting information. For our shooting, that's going to be a sequence, just like our wander. First thing we're going to want to do is move to the player. And I don't want to say destination, I want the player. And as you can see, I can't select that as a key because our move to can't have an object. So we have that destination. We need to make sure that we're setting that destination of where to move when we're setting our player. In our blackboard, let's just change our player to be simply a vector. So that's really the player's location. No, I do want object. Yes. Switch that back, sorry. And in our behavior tree, we have that move to. So that's going to be like attack move. And we also want to call our shoot. For this, we're going to need a new task. I'm going to do a new based off the basic blueprint. I want to rename this so it's not just BTT blueprint task new. And remove this duplicate wander, or delete that one. For this one, I want to rename it. And this will be BTT, BTT ask shoot. In this, make sure to open up the full blueprint editor. I can do receive execute AI. And we have our controller and pawn. If we take a look at how our other task, our other controller is actually telling our player to shoot, I want to look at my player controller. We see input action shoot is casting to a character base and calling start attack. So let's go over to our task as a pawn. I can do start attack through the I character interface. That's all our shoot task needs to do. From here, BTT task shoot. So it's going to move to a position and shoot. I need to make sure that I'm setting this destination of where to actually attack. In order to do this, I need to go into our enemy controller. So we added that, AI, I need to go into our enemy. So that's where our perception is set. So perception is just a listener looking for stimuli. Our player then needs to have a stimuli on it. So we'll add a component, stimuli source. Okay. Now our player can be detected from the enemy. Let's play and enable the debugging. So right now it's just wandering around. And if I press P, if I press 1, over when that's like centered in the screen, it'll select him up. And you see that little icon over its head saying that it's running, that signifies it's running a behavior tree. If I press 2, 3, 4, 5, there we go. So right now I have it showing those sight lines. Those sight lines are the little green lines off to the left and right of it. And that's its sight cone, essentially. I'm going to narrow that down so we can open up our enemies. I don't want controller, I want the actual enemy in its perception. We have this right here, peripheral vision angle. Let's drop that down to, let's say 45. So we play it again. Hit that apostrophe. Press 4, I think it is. And we can see it's a much tighter cone. Okay. Now that we've got the perception set up, I want to actually make sure that our enemy is reacting to that perception. So we're going to want to add a function, or add overload an event. So override, lots of different things in here, but I want it to be based off of this AI perception. So on perception, and I can't access that from the enemy. Our enemy controller which is in our AI. On perception, and we can say there's a couple of registerings, but I don't see the function I actually want. So I'm going to turn off context sensitive. There's get actors perception. I need the actual function, which I can't remember the name to right now. Should be in here. And on target perception updated. Target perception updated. And I can see I can bind that, so that's probably not, I don't want to do it inside there. I want to try it in the enemy. Not in the enemy. I'm going to need to do this inside our basic update. So, with this selected, down here, we can see the different events that we can overload for it. On perception updated, on target perception updated, that's the one we want. So we have our actor and some sort of stimulus that it's going to update. We can break this stimulus and expand that. And we see a bunch of different things for like how old the stimulus was, how soon it's going to expire, the strength of it, lots of different things that you can use to tweak your AI's response to different things. when that happens, we want to get Blackboard and we're going to want to register that stimulus to the Blackboard, set value as object, and what value do we want to set? Well, we want to set it that object that it's hitting. Oops. Don't want get Blackboard from actor. I want that from our own Blackboard. Break links. Yeah. Actor is going to be the object value for the key name. I'm going to promote that to a variable and call it player key. Compile. Then I have to actually remember to set the value for it. And that was just called player in the Blackboard. For our get Blackboard, that's just going to be our simple Blackboard that we have. So in here, we do not have access to the Blackboard. Shoot. Well, what I can do is get the controller and use that Blackboard. So I want to set this value only when the stimulus has successfully sensed it. So we need to do a break or a branch. We're branching when it is there. We set the value. When it's not there, we clear the value. Clear Blackboard. And I'll do it off of the Blackboard again. Clear value. And we'll just pass in that player key again. All right. So we compile, save. In our shoot, it will basically just run this until that breaks, which is when the player gets set. And in this one, once the player is set, we'll go to this sequence and we'll do move to the player and tell it to shoot. Instead of just moving to and shooting, I want it to also rotate to face. Okay. I need some way. I'm going to add a decorator onto this one. And we'll just do Blackboard. And the condition, when player is actually set. Problem is, we're never setting the destination. So for that, in our enemy, in our enemy right here, where we're setting our value as object for our player, we also want to set it to the player's location. So we can set another value. Oops. And of course, we need this off of the blackboard. And this is going to be the set value as vector. And the vector value that we want is that other actor's location. Location. And we'll get that actor's location, send that in. I'm going to promote that key to a variable. Variable name, destination key, compile it, and the key for that is destination. And we can go ahead and check out how this is working. I need to make sure that our enemy controller has the proper behavior tree set. On the enemy controller, we see that it doesn't have anything set for that. For our enemy, on the enemy, in the player controller, enemy controller. I suppose that's just in the base enemy is where we're doing that play. Nope. It should be. Where did I put that? Just didn't. Ah, there it is. Yep. So we're telling it to run a behavior tree, default asset of BT Wander. In order to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to promote this to a variable so that we can just modify it wherever we want. And our variable name, we'll say default behavior. And it's type of behavior tree. We compile, and now we have a nice drop down to select which one we want. I want it to do that BT shoot. And now we can test this out. I press play. He runs over there. I'm right in front of him, but he's not actually shooting. So let's pull up the debugging stats. I see its main behavior is BT shoot. It got to that selector, and its running behavior, BT wander. So something's happening that he's not actually sensing me. Let's open up our shoot. And check out how that's running when we're playing. Well, I see it's sitting right here. Value is none for that player. So player's never getting set. In our enemy, let's make sure that that stuff we're doing down here is working. I want to make sure that this set object is being hit. And we can play. So I run over here, and it's not happening. Let's open up the debug stuff again. Pressing 4. I can see I'm standing clearly in it, but it's not actually getting that location. So, this was never triggering. That's not good. So our stimulus, not working. Let's check our player's stimulus. And check out anything that we have. AI perceptions. Auto register as source. Register as source for senses. We need to tell it that it can be seen. We'll compile that. Save it. Replay now. Turn that on. Turn that sight on. And it's still not detecting. So let's check out what's going on. Oops. There we go. Double checking our senses. Don't need any tags. That should be good. In our enemy, let's check out, make sure he's got the default senses set up. Oh, right, there's one step I'm forgetting. Disable the that one thing. Move to player. Attack. Wait. You remember how to disable the team selection? You have to set it to detect neutral as well. Okay. Shoot. So our stimulus is not detecting because there's some weird stuff that right here. There we go. Right now it's just trying to detect enemies, but we never set up how we want to detect. We want to just detect neutrals because you have to actually go in C++ and change what affiliation is associated with what team. So uncheck the enemies and check that neutrals. And we can give this another shot. So I press play. I see it's setting the value. It sees me right off the bat. I'm going to disable that breakpoint. I'm going to play it again. So I press play, and he just ran into some fire. I get in front of him. Oh, and he ran over there and shot. I'll run past him again, and I see he's just not reacting at all anymore. So I stop playing. Jump over to our enemy. And in here, I have it if the player is not set, if the player is set, move to this destination, rotate to face this destination, and tell it to shoot. Let's check out our shoot task. Remember, blueprint tasks will always execute until finish is called. So it was just stuck after that start attack was called. We need to finish the execute. And we'll just say it was a success. Compile. Save. And then let's change how some of this stuff is working so that it doesn't just immediately run to that random location. We want it to actually shoot at our player. So I press play. He's running way over there. I get in front of him. He runs off in that direction and shoots. So our location is definitely not correct. Enemy controller. So instead of moving to a destination, I want to move straight to our player. Our player is an object. I can create move directly toward, whoops, and come on. And I'm not allowed to actually select our player. In here we have a key type of object, base class. We can select an actor, save that, and now we can actually say move to the player instead. So we don't need that destination anymore. You just had to make sure that the player, key type object, but then define the base class as actor so that it can get that location over here in the behavior tree. All right. Save that. Give it another play. He's running way over here. So he ran up to me and now he's shooting until I died. Okay. I want to change this move to a little bit because I don't want it to run directly up to that object. I can change this acceptable radius. Right now it's set to 5 centimeters. So it was trying to actually get right on top of me before it was starting to shoot. What I can do is go ahead and change this to, let's say, 5 meters away. Well, 5 is a little far. 3 meters away. I press play. And ran past him. So now he should see me, and he's starting to shoot. As soon as he loses sight of me, it doesn't help that we're the same speed, so he's constantly rotating, constantly trying to shoot. Look at that though, he's just sitting there trying to shoot. I'm seeing the debug messages of out of ammo. So we need to add a little bit more functionality for him. Over here and shoot. If that's not set, it'll run this wander. If it is set, it'll run this sequence. But before it runs this sequence, I need to know if I have ammo. So, in our Blackboard, I could create a new key. And this will just be an int for cur ammo. We need to let our enemy actually update this ammo. So, going back to the enemy, inside our weapon is where we actually shoot and do stuff, but our enemy controller has the brains, which are the behavior tree and everything. In our enemy, we want to let it know that when it shoots, so shoot, and I want to overload that function. I do want to call the parent function. And I want to let our AI know about it. So we have the get controller and get Blackboard right here. We can set value as int. Key name, promote to variable. And this will be our ammo key. And the value we want is inside our killable. And that's called, oh, no, not killable. God, that's health. It's inside our weapon. Current weapon, current ammo. Okay. Compile, save. And in our behavior tree, we can do another one. We're going to need to create a new task for reload. So I'll create a new task based off this one. We need to rename it. BT task. Oops, I need to actually be a little bit more specific. And we'll call this one reload. Opening the full blueprint editor. On event, we want to receive execute AI. If our pawn we can call start reload, just like we're doing with the shoot. We also need to remember to call finish execute. And it was a success. Okay. For this, we're going to have a selector. We can do a sequence. We'll add a decorator. And it'll be a blackboard-based condition again. And just move these over so they're not in our way over here. In this condition is going to be current ammo. So when our ammo is equal to 0, and we'll do is less than or equal to, we can tell it to reload. And we also want it to wait a little bit. The default wait time is 5 seconds. We'll say it's just going to take like a second to reload, just so it doesn't start moving immediately. Alright. Save that and test it out. So I press play, get it to start shooting at me in a moment, and it's just sitting there stuck reloading. So there's errors. Reload. Oh, that's a little bit odd, but oh, because the stop reloading was just being overrun. For our check, we're only checking when it shoots, it's setting that value. I was never setting that value in the beginning, which is bad, because I need to make sure as soon as this thing spawns, it sets that value as well. So after that, in begin play, we're running the parent, which is actually reloading initially, and the value is just this stuff and the ammo key. Yeah. I'll copy that, and we'll paste that in up here. Link up. Compile, save. And I'm going to ignore those right now. So it's still just kind of sitting there stuck reloading. Let's open up this. I believe, which one is it? So it's just sitting there in that selector, and it's saying constantly reload, wait, reload, wait. And AI. So clearly that's not actually setting because this ammo key is not valid. I never gave it a default value. I need to tell it which key to go to. It was called cur ammo. Just double check that in the blackboard itself. Yep, cur ammo. And now that that's set, see he's shooting. He lost me. And then he reloads. But our reload is also not setting the ammo. Inside our enemy, whenever reload is called, I need to also set that ammo. So I'm going to select all these regarding setting of that blackboard value, holding Control down to select multiples. Copy that. And so when shoot is modified, basically anywhere that current ammo could get modified. That is when you're shooting and reloading and first starting the game. So I'm going to go over here and just paste those copied stuff. And in our functions, I'm going to override our reload. And we're going to call the parent function, because that's the one that does the actual reloading. And we tell our blackboard about it. And one last test. And he runs way off in the distance. He's now in just waiting. He's shooting. Oh, crap. Well, he's going to keep on shooting me, even though I'm dead, just to shove it in my face. All right, so that pretty much wraps up today's lecture. Any questions about anything that was shown? Nope. All right, didn't think so. I'm going to go ahead and stop